Conspiracies are often met with laughter. People roll their eyes and label them outlandish or paranoid. But what if some of those so-called conspiracy theories end up being 100% real? In history, we've seen a handful of impossible rumors that turned out to be verifiable, documented conspiracies once authorities could no longer keep them hidden. Today we're embarking on a deep dive into the darkest, most unsettling conspiracies that the world once dismissed as paranoia, only for irrefutable evidence to reveal the shocking truth. Some led to public outrage, some changed the course of governments, and others shattered the trust people had in their leaders. Stay with me until the end, because our final conspiracy was exposed thanks to a whistleblower who risked everything to shine a light on unspeakable actions. If you love exploring deep, unsettling truths, subscribe now so you don't miss next Saturday's episode, where we'll unearth the most disturbing human experiments ever conducted. Grim tests that crossed every ethical boundary. In March 1962, the Joint Chiefs of Staff in the United States devised Operation Northwoods, a top-secret plan presented to President John F. Kennedy. The objective was disturbing stage false-flag terrorist attacks on American soil, blaming them on Cuba to justify an invasion. The plan's specifics involved scenarios like hijacking civilian airplanes, orchestrating bombings in US cities, and even manufacturing fake casualties among Cuban exiles living in the States. Imagine how close the nation came to false terrorism, carried out by its own defense establishment. Though the exact details remained hidden for decades, declassified documents released in the late 1990s confirmed the horrifying scope. Agents would plant evidence to implicate the Cuban government, manipulate media coverage, and trigger a wave of outrage that would rally the public behind military action. President Kennedy unequivocally rejected Operation Northwoods, calling it immoral and dangerous. The plan never moved forward. However, the fact that such a proposal made it to the president's desk shows how real the risk was. Once labeled a wild conspiracy rumor, Operation Northwoods is now recognized as a chilling historical fact, proof that sometimes those who claim the government might stage an incident aren't always delusional. It was nearly implemented, setting a precedent that forced Americans to question what else high-ranking officials might plan behind closed doors. In 1932, the U.S. Public Health Service launched a clinical study in rural Macon County, Alabama, involving hundreds of African-American men with syphilis. Initially called the Tuskegee Study of Untreated Syphilis in the Negro Male, the project was meant to observe how syphilis would progress if left untreated. Yet from the outset, the participants were deceived, led to believe they were receiving free medical care and support for bad blood, a local term covering various ailments. Even more appalling, the study continued for 40 years. By 1947, penicillin had become the standard treatment for syphilis, capable of curing the disease. But researchers deliberately withheld this drug. Men suffered painful complications, organ damage, blindness, and death, while the experimenters documented every stage for research. Wives of participants contracted syphilis. Children were sometimes born with congenital problems, victims of a government-endorsed deception. It wasn't until 1972, after a whistleblower leaked the story to the press, that public outcry forced the study's immediate end. The scandal ignited lawsuits and a national conversation about medical ethics and racial injustice. In 1997, President Bill Clinton formally apologized on behalf of the government. The conspiracy allegations swirling around government doctors letting black men die were dismissed for decades, until official documents and testimonies proved them true. The Tuskegee experiment remains a haunting testament to how deeply institutional deception can run under the guise of research, profoundly shaking the trust between marginalized communities and healthcare institutions. One of the most notorious conspiracies in American history is the CIA's MKUltra program. Born out of Cold War paranoia in 1953, MKUltra aimed to develop interrogation and mind control techniques to counter supposed Soviet brainwashing. The CIA targeted civilians, prison inmates, mental patients, and even unsuspecting Americans in public, dosing them with LSD, mescaline, and other hallucinogens. Some endured sleep deprivation, electroshock, and hypnosis sessions that wreaked havoc on their psyches. The cruelty of these tests is difficult to overstate. Patients in psychiatric hospitals were unknowingly used as test subjects. Some suffered psychological breakdowns and never recovered. Dr. Sidney Gottlieb, the project's head, believed that mind-altering drugs could wipe memories, control behaviors, or reshape personalities. To keep operations hidden, the CIA funneled money through dummy organizations to universities and hospitals that participated without fully grasping they were party to a clandestine scheme. In 1975, news of MKUltra first broke during the Church Committee hearings, shocking the nation. The program's existence was confirmed in 1977 when a trove of surviving documents revealed the breadth of these experiments, despite CIA efforts to destroy nearly all evidence. The rumor that the CIA might be drugging innocent Americans turned from conspiracy theory to undeniable fact, staining public trust in intelligence agencies. MKUltra remains a grim reminder that even democratic governments can quietly unleash unethical experiments upon their own citizens in the name of national security. After World War II, concerns about nuclear fallout soared. The US government and allied nations scrambled to understand the effects of radiation on human tissues. Project Sunshine, launched in the 1950s, aimed to study how radioactive isotopes from nuclear tests accumulated in bones, especially those of children and infants, considered more vulnerable. But the methods used were shockingly unethical. Government agencies covertly obtained body parts, particularly bones, of deceased infants and children, often without parental consent. Families were led to believe they were burying their loved ones intact, but in reality, researchers had removed samples for lab analysis. The rationale was to measure strontium-90 and other isotopes to gauge nuclear fallout's danger. While the research arguably advanced scientific understanding, the secrecy and deceit inflicted deep psychological wounds on the families who later learned the grisly truth. It wasn't until the 1990s that documents surfaced, detailing how widespread these body-snatching tactics were. Countries like the UK, Australia, and Canada also participated. Public outcry soared, with many branding Project Sunshine a government-sanctioned grave robbery. Like Tuskegee and MKUltra, the revelations underscored how easily authorities could violate fundamental human ethics under the guise of scientific progress. Project Sunshine, once dismissed as a grim rumor, proved to be a horrifying reality. In the mid-20th century, the FBI launched COINTELPRO, short for Counterintelligence Program, to monitor and disrupt political organizations that the Bureau deemed subversive. Initially aimed at the Communist Party, it soon expanded to target civil rights groups, anti-war protesters, and other social movements. J. Edgar Hoover's agency engaged in break-ins, illegal wiretapping, forged documents, and smear campaigns to discredit activist leaders like Martin Luther King Jr. and groups such as the Black Panther Party. For years, activists claimed the FBI was spying on them, destroying reputations and inciting violence to weaken these movements. They were mocked and dismissed as paranoid conspiracy theorists. But in 1971, a group calling themselves the Citizens Commission to Investigate the FBI broke into an FBI office in Media, Pennsylvania, and stole files that confirmed the Bureau's systematic sabotage efforts. Newspapers published the documents, spurring a national scandal. Subsequent investigations revealed the shocking extent of COINTELPRO's illegal activities, yet Hoover denied wrongdoing until his death. Eventually, congressional hearings confirmed what the targeted groups had been alleging. COINTELPRO stands as a stark reminder that government surveillance and harassment can be far more expansive than the public realizes. Just because you're called paranoid doesn't mean you're wrong. Once again, a supposed conspiracy theory morphed into proven fact, eroding trust in law enforcement for generations. Operation Northwoods, Tuskegee, MK Ultra, Project Sunshine, COINTELPRO. Each conspiracy began as whispered rumors, dismissed as wild paranoia. Over time, declassification and whistleblowers exposed the unsettling reality behind each, that even the most outlandish accusations can carry a seed of truth. These revelations left deep scars, altering public perception of government institutions, medical ethics, and national security practices. Which conspiracy astonished you the most? Did you find it more disturbing that officials plotted attacks on their own soil, or that innocent people were unwittingly used as scientific test subjects? Let us know in the comments. And if you found this deep dive riveting, subscribe now so you don't miss next Saturday's episode, where we delve into the most disturbing human experiments ever conducted, real-life tests that make these conspiracies look tame by comparison. Always remember, sometimes what we call paranoia is actually a keen awareness of the shadows in which these conspiracies lurk. Thank you for watching. See you next week in our next investigation.